Hey, we are live again. This is Political Soul Food live, and you know it, it's Tuesday, and you know what that means? Tuesday's Toxic Trump Report. Every Tuesday, I talk about all of the toxins that Trump is pouring into our American society, and we have to do something about that. I'm running live here on IG, YouTube, and Facebook. I want to thank all of you for chiming in and conversing with me on the platforms and also staying strong and holding down the fort because everything is at stake right now. All that we've accomplished to date is at risk. So we want to make sure we encourage each other, we stay informed, we inform each other, of course, and vote. So anyway, I'm gonna let people get these notifications so they can chime in. Today we are talking about Mueller, what the Mueller report really tells us. So get ready for that, and let's get started. All right. So I'm gonna play this intro music here, and let people know we are on live. All right. Tuesday night, toxic Trump report. You know I gotta talk about this. I talk about everything, almost everything under the sun, but I gotta talk about Trump. Most of y'all know I'm the left, and at the same time, as an academic, I try to maintain critical thinking. And from that perspective, I talk about American politics. And I notice that there's a need to talk about Donald Trump. Now, like I say over and over and over, Donald Trump is just merely a symptom, more or less, of some darker issues that go way back to slavery and exploitation. So we're going to be talking about this until this guy's out of office, at least once a week. We got my homeboy, soul brother Jerome, up in the house. Good to see you, bro. Thanks for stopping by. And so let's get started. Tonight's Toxic Trump report is actually a discussion on Mueller's report and what it's really telling us. And I feel that a lot of us need to talk about this. I see some people losing heart. Many are disappointed. I mean, of course, the ideal situation is to see Trump in an orange suit locked up in Sing Sing somewhere or maximum prison, security prison. Fine. But we understand the history of the United States and how impeachment works and how, trying to figure out whether or not a president is guilty, how that works, right? It doesn't send a president to jail, really, at this point. So, but we want to look at, what this report is telling us in the context of what we have in front of our faces and also in the history of American politics. And and so first things first, let's just be clear about the issue, all right? The issue is that there's been some fishy business that's been confirmed by the American intelligence agencies that Russia interfered with the 2016 presidential elections. Many, particularly on the right, might like to say, well, that's hocus pocus, that's fake news, but it's clear that that's the case. even by the very, military and intelligence agencies that conservatives actually like to praise. So we can see the hypocrisy here. And and so what what we know is that this is just beyond a left versus right issue. This is beyond that. This is about patriotism, which is sort of that magic word, that amazing word that conservatives like to throw out at anybody who disagrees with what they're saying or their position. We are patriots. If we say Black Lives Matter, then we got to say all lives matter. We are patriots. If you say women's rights, no, we are patriots. We need to maybe get some basic regulations on guns. We are patriots. So that's just their default word, to hide their true intentions, to hide their true feelings about other people. Like, what does it mean for you to be a patriot? So basically, the Mueller investigation is really a bipartisan concern, more so than any other, just about any other investigation of a president, especially the one on who's our boy, Bill Clinton, right? I mean, they're really trying to diminish his character as someone who's a philanderer, and that's basically what they got. So we're talking about an issue of national security. Has America been, or still is being, manipulated by foreign governments? That's the key. And the answer to that prior to the Mueller investigation is 100% yes. So that's not up for debate. What was up for debate was Donald Trump and his administration, or his campaign's involvement. That was up for debate. And to what extent? And the report was supposed to, the investigation, Mueller's investigation, was supposed to secure that information for us. Something we should know is that, all right, this 2-year investigation actually had more constraints than most other investigations of this nature. So Mueller was working under a microscope with a limited scope of inquiry, and in other words, he wasn't really provided the full array of tools in time necessary for a issue of this magnitude and also subtlety, because trying to find the connecting the dot between two people conspiring in this day and age is very difficult, extremely difficult, and that, obviously that's a challenge. In any case, that's a challenge. Otherwise, we just have he said, she said. So just looking at the kind of scenario this Mueller investigation really is, in terms of the methods, the methodology that's being used. I mean, I read a little bit about the kind of people that were on Mueller's team. Guys who do forensics and computer systems and software, trying to trace, I can imagine, emails or bank accounts and all of these things here, which are happening at the highest level, of trickery and and spy, strategies and techniques. So I think you can. I'm trying to get your imagination to tap into the reality of this investigation. So it was a very tall order for Mueller. Mueller's report, I would like to say, did its job as best as it can ever be done, apart from my ultimate desire. But given the scenario, given the fact that many people had plenty of time to cover their tracks as best as possible, at least enough to protect their main guy, to protect their quarterback, right? And they Republicans did a great job at that. But despite all of that, Mueller was able to uncover copious connections between Americans and Russian nationals. Initially, these connections were denied. They were denied. Okay, and so the goal mark, or the kind of evidence that was needed, was becoming more and more difficult to meet, because the benchmark kept being pulled further and further away. That's fine. We should not expect anything less. If you expect anything less, then you don't understand American politics, or you refuse to understand it. And I'm not saying in a way that I'm understanding something, on a more refined level. I'm just saying, listen, just read the newspaper about the kinds of issues that happened in America prior to Trump. And, the Iran Contra issue, that one where Reagan got caught, and Reagan actually could have been brought up for impeachment, but the country decided not to do it. Congress decided not to do it, not to bring Reagan up. The excuse was that we just overcome a huge ordeal and via Watergate, and that was the reason. Not, well, it's not true, or we don't have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. No, it was nothing like that. So cover-ups happen on all sides. That's just natural. That's my point right here. But let's look at what happened. Mueller uncovered an infestation of corruption in the White House and outside the White House. People were arrested. People were indicted. Some people pled guilty. And some people were succumbed to the evidence. Russian nationals have been arrested. Connections have been made. And now I can hear now the crowds telling me, but there was no collusion. Okay, fine. You got me on that. But we know for sure that the corruption runs deeper than an ocean. That's been proven. That has been proven. And now I want to make my case, ultimately, that the Mueller report did its job in exposing the corruption beyond a reasonable doubt, exposing the connections. However, being able to nail down the intent, and finding a contract or finding an email that says, hey, thank you very much for your assistance, Putin. And then the response email, oh, no problem, Donald Trump. Anything for you. We're going to make America great again. In fact, we're going to make Russia great again, too. We rock as a team. Yeah, that wasn't going to be found. Okay, and then Putin, in fact, wasn't even hands-on in this case. And he had people doing his dirty work, obviously. And that's how things work. United States do the same thing. All right. So let's just dig in a little deeper. I just wanted to get some of that off, because there are a lot of people who are discouraged, and I just kind of wanted to put things in perspective. I just wanted to put that into perspective. So Trump feels that from his attorney general's summary that he can say that he is completely, absolutely exonerated, that there's no collusion. Well, let's get this straight here. His boy, William Barr, obviously tried to present the report in as good a light as possible for Donald Trump. And the report allowed him to do that very generously. However, there are some details that we have to point out. And the way we get these or ascertain these details is the same way we should apply critical thinking in everything that we read or hear about So I mean, this is not really like rocket science stuff, trigonometry, or any kind of logical exercise. Oh, let me. So, Brother Jerome said collusion was in Helsinki when he met with Putin in private. Absolutely, absolutely. So there's. I mean, it is at the risk of breaching the the territory, the boundaries of critical thinking. I'm going to say a lot of this is self-evident, and that's because Trump made it self-evident in his actions. But trying to do my best to stay on the ground of things that could be proven or have been proven, um, we're gonna go a little further into this. So, Attorney General Barr basically wants to say that he says Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and I have concluded that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. And this is written in his report. But he more or less, the media, right wing media, more or less presents there was no collusion. That is not what the report is saying. Even from the footnotes, I actually read Barr's report. So I spent time reading that. It's short, it's a few pages. I read it, and in trying to legitimize his summary, he tagged footnotes on in the report in his summary, and it seems like he tried to find the most harmless footnotes possible, and even those neutralize Barr's attempt to make Trump seem guiltless in any way, in every way, allowing Trump to take Barr's summary and inject a lot of hyperbole into it, which Trump does all the time. So the footnote to that is so the footnote to what Barr wrote is, and this is Mueller speaking, the evidence does not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference. So he used that phrase. The evidence does not establish that the president was involved in underlying crime related to Russian interference. However, what we also know is that the evidence does not vindicate Trump from the claim that he was a part of collusion. And I'm surprised that Barr allowed the, the certain part that's really critical here to actually hit the airwaves. While this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Now, if you listen to anyone who supports Trump, they're going to say no collusion. The report proves that Trump was not involved. In fact, it is clear to me that the report does not do that. In fact, with the report, even from the footnotes and from the extended conversation in Barr's summary, shows that even he had to admit that there's evidence on both sides. And this is obviously the sign when someone wants to cover their tracks. They go, well, there's evidence for and there's evidence against. And that's the way of playing fair or appearing to play fair while trying to obscure the issues that are most damaging. The issue that is most damaging here in Mueller's report is that there is evidence in Mueller's report that strongly suggests that Trump was part of collusion, that many others were part of collusion connected to his campaign, but it wasn't sufficient. And it's basically not sufficient because not enough time and there are a lot of restrictions. a lot of restrictions placed on this investigation, more so than Ken Starr's investigation of Bill Clinton in the 1998. And you would think that that is a sort of mismatch in priority, given the stakes, collusion versus whether that's some, I mean, both. So both should be held accountable, but collusion versus lying about having an affair or an inappropriate actions, as a husband, lying as a president, inappropriate. Okay, because I'm playing this variation because Republicans, at least from what I'm hearing, what I see, and even the ones I debate with, love to play the priority card. There's certain things more important to national security than others. So why can't we be consistent with that? It's my question. So at the end of the day, you should know. Don't take my word for it. I'm telling you what I think you should know, but make sure you fact check me. Just go on and find a link to Barr's statement and read it, rather than just looking only at the headlines and the short phrases that are bandied from one social media site to another. Look and read what he says. And for someone who is actually, trying to defend Trump, even he could not purge any trace of culpability. I know he wanted to, but he couldn't. And I think Mueller wrote it in such a way that made it impossible. But guess what? It doesn't matter, because all Trump needs is to not be charged, not be found guilty, or not be indicted. That's all he needs. And then, because he's going to lie anyway, I mean, the number of lies he's told already is alarming. It's alarming. I mean, we're keeping tabs. It's ridiculous. So he really tells the truth about anything. And it's not just him. It's the right overall. And I did a podcast on the kamikaze overall. And I did a podcast on the kamikaze disinformation strategy. It works. And this is an example of the kamikaze disinformation, misinformation strategy. You take Mueller's report and say that Mueller's report exonerates Trump. Trump said the report exonerates him for any and everything. Meanwhile, even the AG who is protecting him and trying to put Trump in a good light had to report that this report, while it does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it does not exonerate him. I mean, I don't, this is, no, I'm not going to say frustrating. This is interesting. The report says it does not exonerate Trump. Trump says it exonerates him. And everybody on his team is having a whole MAGA celebration day for Trump being vindicated. No, Trump escaped conviction. That's what happened. He escaped. He escaped. I don't think he really escaped, and said he escaped the collusion charge, but truth be told, gangsters, especially in America, the John Gottis and others, they don't go to jail, or they don't get caught because of the bodies or the actual crimes they commit. They really get caught for not paying taxes, the money trail. And that's really what's happening, because Trump is still being investigated, and there are a lot of things warming up. The stew is being mixed. The stew is being mixed, my friends. So this is different. This is way, way different. Way, way, way different. So I was trying to show something over here in my Obama book section, but I couldn't get it there. So let me bring it back. There's a book over there, and sorry, it's a little messy over there. I was showing IG, so I have a couple of books, obviously on Obama, but they were on Trump before he was president. They were on the Republican Party before, and a lot of this that we're seeing, a lot of the issues that we're seeing, from corruption all the way over to collusion, were already being sort of exposed. A lot of people were actually starting to write on this, and we're just now finding out about it. I think the majority, because a lot of people weren't really paying attention to that. And I would just say now, just for myself, that I got lucky by stumbling over some books that called out Trump by name as a potential person who could ride this anger and this rejection of the left. So I felt like, okay, something is up here. And this book came out. I keep mentioning this book, The Backlash, came out in 2011. All right, and the kinds of things that Trump gets into, his bankruptcies and his corruption, that was already outlined. So this is kind of carrying over. So let me just get out of here. So this is another thing that should not be too surprising. So what do we really want to know? What is this report really telling us? One, is telling us what a lot of us already know, that Trump is corrupt, and that there are some connections to Russia that he denied having, that his son denied, and that many others have denied. People are arrested for some of these contacts, and people have been indicted because they lied about having certain contacts. And not only that, his other tentacles have been found. And this report brings all of that to light. And this will allow Congress to, in fact, use Mueller's report as wood for the fire that is still burning. There's a burning fire, and so Trump is going to use the hype for his base. He's going to use this hype about him, as my boy G.D. Stokes says, thinking that he's exonerated. G.D. Stokes, you're right. The right think Trump is exonerated. And it's just, I mean, I guess I fall into the same kind of accusation of liberals. We always try to make this like a common or like an intellectual thing, intellectual versus anti-intellectual. But I mean, I don't know what to say any other way. The bottom line is the report does not exonerate Trump. Trump says he's fully exonerated, and people believe him. And this is what we're going to have over and over and over and over. Therefore, no one should be discouraged. It was very unlikely that Trump would get caught in the way that we would love for him to get caught. The good news is that Mueller's report is more or less a can of worms that have been cracked open. In fact, it's not one can. It's a dozen of cans of worms that have been cracked open. And hoping that Trump is a one-term president, which is possible if the left doesn't just collapse. We could be so weak sometimes. It's just crazy. But I kind of understand the psychology of our inconsistency in voting. And my explanation is that the emotional and psychological edge that Republicans and conservatives have is that America is their birthright. And so there's a different psychology when somebody believes that they're defending what they inherited from their ancestors, from God, right? They're manifesting their destiny. Get it? Manifest destiny. So one would even be a martyr for that cause. Now, the left, because we tend to look at America as, this this entity that needs to be brought down. We need to just bring it down and rebuild it. Many of us are reluctant to invest in it. Many of us have different kind of narratives of that sort, where it's some feel like, well, we would never be able to make change, and depending on your historical grievance with this country, whether it's slavery and racism, or whether it's equal rights, and as as an LGBTQ member, it's whatever your narrative is, or your historical grievance, as I said, a lot of people are less inclined to want to work hard, to make this country better. Especially as a group, it's much more difficult, and everybody got these nuanced issues. Whereas the right just pretty much has like this one big issue, and they just want to deal with this one big issue. They see everybody else as the enemy, right? And that's it. That's it. You're just grouped in one package, and you're designated the enemy, and then they're gonna come out full force. And that's what's been happening. So that's my fear for the left. If the left gets distracted, or if the left feels defeated, then we won't show up. And I think that's the only way Trump can win at this point. I mean, along with the help of, disinformation out here. So this report is going to do well to galvanize Trump's base and to antagonize and discourage the left, where the left should not be at all, anyway, discouraged. Not at all. In any way, we should not be discouraged, my friends. You should not be discouraged at all, because the Mueller report is indeed a can of worms. There are issues in this report that have been uncovered and made public during the investigation that has put Trump in the hot seat. Okay, New York State's Attorney General is all over him. And so this is going to follow him. In fact, in this route, he literally could be locked up. Like, if he, here's one variation, assuming he it loses in 2020, the investigations surrounding Trump, based on his negligence in managing money and business dealings on so many properties, making a profit as a president. I mean, all of these things could catch up to him, and are likely to catch up to him. I am actually putting my money on Trump leaving the country. I actually think that Trump will leave the country, because there are a lot of people who are really coming after him, and they have the goods. Mueller's, again, report was basically targeting collusion, which was going to be very difficult to prove. So what we got to expect, which you are already experiencing, is a frenzy of disinformation and misinformation. Trump is out here just saying whatever, and just basically telling people a downright lie. So you're going to get more of that. That's just going to galvanize his base, which is very limited. It is a minority. They're saying they're a majority. They did not win the popular vote. And there are many more people who obviously sat out but are still anti-Trump. And the bottom line is that there are many people who are disenfranchised as well, who couldn't vote. And gerrymandering also deflated a lot of the numbers. So if we, stay the course, focus on these structural issues, and make sure we don't get discouraged for like silly things, fine. He didn't get thrown in jail this time. And it's likely, even if the Democrats were to call up impeachment doesn't necessarily put a president in jail. And there are many reasons why the government or the intelligence community wouldn't even want the president to end up going to jail. So that's that. Now, before we close out here, a few things we need to do. Maintain our critical thinking so that we don't fall prey. I don't think many of you are going to fall prey to the nonsense that Trump is spewing. But I do feel that some of us could be could be subjected to uh, feeling, despondent, so despondent that you don't want to really kind of be involved, even though you know the truth. You just don't want to be involved. You just feel like you may get tired, and I want you to understand political time, and it's a different tempo. It's a different tempo. I've seen chess games where there's a lot of action, but a lot of freaking action. I don't know if you know how to play chess, and there's a lot of moves going on, a lot of exchanges, but underneath, underneath the rhythm of that exchange is a more slow moving shift in the position or imbalance for that would be advantageous to one player or another player. And so we're gonna have to tap into that. All right. At the end of the day, Trump has not escaped investigations and inquiries. So don't forget that. We can, if we maintain critical thinking, that will help us not forget that. I think the second thing we should do is hold the narrative of Trump's guilt in the 2016 elections. Saturate social media with that. Why? Because so much is happening that people need to remember, and we need someone to help us remember. And if we don't get help remembering, because time is money, is time. A lot of people don't have time to like keep following politics, and so they just kind of bail on it and just go whatever. But those of you, in your conversations, stay the fort, because collectively, even though we may not be right next to each other, but collectively that energy builds up. All right, and so just to end off on a few things, here's what's at stake. Since Trump got elected, hate crimes increased, and especially in Trump land, in places where Trump held campaigns. Right, the report is that hate crimes increased by approximately 226%. 226%. Not only that, Trump is busy closing down programs that challenge violent extremism. He's shutting that stuff down. Not only that, he's supposed to be the man, the business guy. Our country reached a record monthly deficit of $234 billion. Not only that, to take it to another dimension, he's permitting the EPA, which is supposed to protect the environment, to allow businesses to poison the environment. One action is allowing companies to spread pesticides that kills bees, which is very important to our ecosystem. So this dude is toxic all the way around, and he's one of the worst presidents ever. Some G.D. Stokes said he is the worst. He's the most corrupt president ever. I mean, there's been some really, really corrupt ones. He's up there, but there's others who compete as well. So this is our Tuesday night toxic Trump report. So again, stay encouraged, maintain our critical thinking, stay on your fort, encourage other people, make your presence on social media. We cannot retrench, and we're gonna have to remind. We're gonna have to, if the least we can do, the Dakota pipeline. Yes, G.D. Stokes. The least we could do is give Trump and his supporters a sense of cognitive dissonance. Right? That's the least. To remind them of the lies they're being told and the ones that they're believing. And I think if we do that, that will encourage others on the sideline who are sincerely confused or who are truly discouraged. Because if they do not see us holding the fort, then their motivation is not going to come at all. And so my fear is that a lot of people will become discouraged, or just become content and numb to what appears to be Trump winning. What we have to remember, at least, and I'll try to present it in a more humble way, my narrative of events is that the Republicans are playing extreme defense to push back and compensate on Obama's presidency. Obama's presidency was frightening because it was a manifestation of a very strong, robust, huge liberal and progressive electorate. That if it were to tap into, it become conscious of itself, will prevent a Republican president or conservative president or any president that chooses to maintain racism, that chooses to perpetuate economic segregation. It would put that out of business. Every one of them out of business. And that is our issue at this moment. Our issue is more or less internal, I would say, more than it is external. And so we, again, we should have never dropped the ball on the 2010 election, midterm election. And we should have never dropped the ball on the 2014 midterm election. There was no reason. We had the numbers. There was no reason to, other than, feeling discouraged. So I want you all to remember that. They're actually playing defense, and they're trying to get us to see ourselves as having our backs against the wall. Our backs are no longer against the wall. Remember, their mantra is "Make America Great Again." Their mantra is one of desperation, but expressed in a form of inspiration and aspiration. So let's not forget that. That's what's happening. So rhetorically, they're playing the offense. But in actuality, they're trying to dismantle everything that Obama passed, Obamacare and everything else, and they're also trying to get inside our heads so that we don't see what we have. We don't see how much we've accomplished. And they've been very successful at this. And before I go, I'll just give you one example. I had a discussion with someone who's on the left and argued that, Obama's a neoliberal. And this a lot of this rhetoric came from Cornel West and many others. And it's gotten so bad that even I believe Cornel West didn't expect it to go this bad, even though he gets on my nerves. People have called Obamacare a neoliberal policy, which means you have no idea what neoliberalism is, which is trying to centralize the corporations with power. Open up the free. It's not even free markets. It's giving all power of decisions to corporations. And that's what's happening. Corporations are making an extreme amount of profit on the backs of Americans. So think about Trump's tax plan versus Obama's tax plan, where Obama was taxing the high end more than the middle and the lower end. And Trump did the reverse. Less tax for the high end and more for the middle and the lower end of our community. Okay? Making permanent tax breaks for the higher classes, the upper classes, economically speaking. So this should at least give you a trace of what neoliberals are trying to do. They're trying to get rid of Obamacare. Right now, they're trying to get rid of Obamacare. Obamacare was an attempt to wrestle some of that control that these pharmacies and insurance companies had. So if the left, if many people who are devout leftists, who's supposed to be even more to the left than a moderate Democrat, and you can't even tell the difference of the policies that are meant to help working class people versus those that are crushing working class people, then it's not surprising that many more of us will be discouraged. Because when you have people on the left perpetuating this, then it's It's horrible because then people don't even have anything to, you know, policies that could be encouraging and signs of progress are now painted as, Trojan horses, and then, people just give up because they feel betrayed even more, and it's bad when that's not the case. So this is what we need to do, y'all. All right, so there's a lot of work. The left, unfortunately, have to do a lot more work because I do feel like even those who are perpetuating racism and these in this false, fake news, unintentionally, that's why we have to study a little bit more. Like we actually have to be a little bit more academic about some of these concepts here, right? We don't get a free pass. We need to understand a little bit of what's going on, what we're talking about. We need to read a little bit more on these policies. And I'm not saying read every policy entirely from first page to the end page, but we got to go a little bit deeper so that we can really know what we're talking about and fact check each other because there have been many successes and people don't know that. And I just thought this last one. I have this with the black community, and it really gets to me. And I probably should just do a show on that where the black community goes, "Obama didn't do nothing for us," and it's just like when somebody says, when somebody asks me, "Can you name one thing he did for black people?" It's just like, oh, so you can't even name one thing. No wonder Trump can appeal to certain black people. Anyway, so Trump's response to Mueller's report is another form of another form of the Republican Party's kamikaze misinformation, disinformation campaign. Right? The report does not exonerate him. It didn't. It couldn't conclude that there was collusion, but there was evidence for collusion. Even Barr had to admit that, but it just wasn't strong enough, and it was up to him and his deputy to say whether or not they want to follow through on this. And obviously, Trump's handpicked guys are not going to follow through. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for tuning in on Political Soul Food. I had to go in on this because and a lot of people are playing too many games on this topic. Trevor Noah, he has this approach to it, and I like Trevor Noah, but I just felt that, and he has a wide, deep listenership, and I just felt like, when he said, this is a big win for Trump, that's misleading even for those on the left because Mueller opened up, like I said, a dozen can of worms. And understanding how these investigations work, it is very hard to find a president that has a lot of political capital. He has the Senate still. He has the Supreme Court. He has a lot of justices behind him, and many people are in powerful places. So it was very likely that he wouldn't be caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And given the restrictions on Mueller's investigation was heavily restricted, more so than any other investigations of this sort. So what we do know is that the investigation uncovered a lot of corruption that is still present. It has a lot of people arrested, and again, I don't know how many times I say it. It does not exonerate Trump. It does not say Trump is the Virgin Mary. Not at all. It's far from it. Thank you, folk. Thanks for chiming in to the Political Soul Food. It's good to see y'all all here. If anybody, I'll leave some time for a call if anybody want to call in real fast. That number is 202 505 0250. 202 505 0250. Feel free to chime in here and join me on the discussion. If you have some comments you want to make, you can do that right now. So yeah, so stay encouraged, y'all. Just gotta make sure I pass that energy on. All right. So let's see here. GD Stokes here said Mueller indicted several people around him that if the roles were reversed and it was President Barack Obama, he would be complicit. Oof. There it is right there. That's it right there. Yeah. I mean, obviously the double standards. And this is why I'm thinking, like, I wanted to say too, I'm glad, GD Stokes, thanks for sharing that. Because you know what? First of all, we need to keep going. You see what they did to Hillary Clinton with Benghazi. I mean, it was Benghazi, 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 Benghazi. Listen, even after the committees that looked into Hillary's actions to find fault with her, they vindicated her, and they still set up Benghazi panels. After that, they still continued the investigation. So I'm saying, like, we gotta just fight fire with at least this kind of fire with fire. I mean, I know we want to take the higher ground to a certain extent on certain issues, yes, but in this issue, no. Throw some more wood in that fire. Throw some more wood in that fire. So yeah. Oh, the House is trying to well, the House has demanded Mueller's full report, so that's good, right? We want to expose him, so that's good. So I think what the report deadline was April 2nd. So I wonder how that's going to go down. Hopefully we get that. So yeah, we'll see. We got to keep the pressure on, even on the ground, because really the fight is on the ground. It's what's up there in Washington is a result of the fights on the ground. I'm more of a bottom up person and analyst. A lot of people want to say pointing fingers at politicians. They're getting there. The House is full of people from neighborhoods. They're from people. They're from local neighborhoods, and people are voting for these House of Representatives and senators, who then, can vote for issues and protect presidents and support certain agendas. Dr. Marshall said if President Obama were still in office, he would have been impeached long ago. There would have been no Mueller investigation. There would have, yeah, there wouldn't have been no Mueller. Yeah, he would have, yeah. Obama would have been impeached. I mean, don't forget, Trump was spreading, supporting this whole birther movement about his birth certificate, and even after Obama showed the birth certificate, he didn't believe the birth certificate. He didn't believe the birth certificate. So he's not getting a pass on this. Nah, he's not getting a pass on this, y'all. Mitch McConnell just denied the request from the House to show the full Mueller report. Yeah, I read that, but I think they're gonna. I think it's not over though. They're gonna still fight for this, and I think at the end of the day we can still get it. We can still get it. And even if we don't get it, I don't see why we can get it over the long run. But obviously, I don't think they want this to show prior to the 2020 elections, because I'm almost certain that the report is going to show with more subtlety that while Trump hasn't been, charged with collusion, that his actions were suspicious, and I'm sure they have tons of actions that. Let me read you some of the stats. Let me see here. So Mueller had about 19. It said, so the record is that, or the word out on the street is that he had about 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, intelligence and analysts, and forensic accountants and others. He had about 500 witnesses. 13. He, been in contact with about 13 foreign governments. He issued out roughly 2,800 subpoenas, approximately 500 search warrants, and approximately 230 orders for communication records. I mean, this was a big thing here. And so within these records, there's so much uncovered. There's so much uncovered. So while he wasn't able to find the picture of Trump's hand in the cookie jar, he found tons of crumbs all around Trump's face, fingerprints on the cookie jar, crumbs all around the table, and in other people's pockets and hands. So that's what we have here. And so we want that Mueller report. So Dr. Marshall said even now he doesn't believe the fat lady has not sung yet. He doesn't believe the fat lady has not sung yet. For him, the fat lady has not sung yet. Right. I think that for him, that melody is going to have to be him sort of sitting in front of a judge, with his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, trying to fight against charges that could possibly send him to jail. And, as far as in the way that he's getting over in so many ways, it is weirdly getting tougher for him because the kinds of charges and investigations that are still present are ones that are lingering. They don't end with his presidency. They don't end with his presidency at all. G.D. Stokes said he is guilty of obstruction of justice. Absolutely. Come on. You see the turnover in the Justice Department? It's ridiculous. The turnover was crazy. Did you hear about one of the guys that's working with him at ICE wanted to quit because he just couldn't continue spreading Trump's lies? But I think Mike Pence got him to stay on board for a little while longer. That's crazy. So, I mean, a lot of things are falling apart, and but it doesn't mean anything if we don't, keep pushing. So let's keep pushing, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in to Political Soul Food. You can check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Kassan Henry, as it's spelled here. If you want to do some supporting, or you can do some supporting at PayPal, Kassan Henry. And you know what? I'm going to post on IG. I already did on YouTube and Facebook. Sort of a different kind of format of the podcast. It was pre-recorded. I interviewed a childhood friend of mine who grew up in Harlem, and we kind of went through his neighborhood a little bit, and I kind of retraced some of his steps when he was a kid, and he reminisced and about Harlem back in the days, and we talked a little bit about the change. We didn't really go into some of the real issues with racism and stuff like that, but basically we spoke from an existential experience where he was thinking about his home, as Claude McKay would say, home to Harlem. He wrote in his book, and so my friend talked about that a little bit. So if you want to check that out, just go to YouTube. It's there. And if you want to, I'm going to put it on IG as well, but it will be chopped up because it's over 20 minutes long. So just to let you know, I got things on YouTube, so kind of in different formats. Feel free to check that out. You could be a patron, and you can get other stuff too. I do a lot of videos for Patreon and audio stuff. Anyway, thanks again for chiming in. I really appreciate all of you. And so we'll be up here tomorrow and Thursday. I can't wait for Thursday. Thursday night Black Shoutouts. I got a lot of people and issues to shout out. Y'all out here doing a great work. Our people are doing a great work, holding it down, and we just need to just keep continuing to support each other and stay informed. So I'm gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and some. Alrighty, have a great night, Aji. Thank you for chiming in. See y'all tomorrow. Let's close out IG. Share that. Let me save that video there. And Facebook, a lot of interaction over there. JD Stokes, thanks for dropping some good insights here. Needed very much. All right, peace. And YouTube.